outside, I look like a normal 17-year-old girl. But when I was 16, I had an experience that very few kids my age ever experience. Do you remember yourself at that age? Chances are that your lifestyle was pretty similar to the lifestyles of many 16-year-olds that I know. Partying, drinking, going out with friends. Well, my life, on the other hand, looks very different. 4 days after my 16th birthday, I became Paralympic champion, competing in the women's 100 meters breaststroke in the SB9 classification. The classification for people with the lightest physical disability. Paralympic? Disability? What's wrong with her? I don't see anything weird about her. She can't be that disabled. And that's exactly how I felt about myself for many years. I must do everything a normal person can do, because my handicap isn't that bad. I'll explain it to you. When I was 6 years old, I broke my wrist while playing outside with my friend. He climbed onto a wall that my parents didn't allow me to climb upon, but I followed him anyway. I fell from the wall and broke my wrist, my left wrist, causing my bone to protrude from my skin. I had a surgery at the hospital, and after that, everything seemed to recover beautifully. Despite a huge scar, everything looked normal. When I was 10, I went back to the hospital because my wrist was growing in a weird way. It was a lot shorter than my right wrist, and I couldn't make all the movements that I should have been able to make. The doctor told me that my growth plate was damaged, which caused my bone to grow in this weird way. I had 3 surgeries that failed to correct it. After that, we decided that more surgeries would only be likely to make my pain worse, so we declined any further treatment. But even though my arm looks a bit weird, I've never been ashamed of it. I see it as a part of me and something that defines me. And to be honest, I always liked being a little different than the others. But despite these positive feelings, I had to face the fact that even with my small disability, I am unable to do everything a normal person can do. I knew I wasn't able to turn or bend my wrist, and I knew that I wasn't able to lift heavy objects. But those things never bothered me, until my first weight session. When I was 13 years old, I had my first weight session in the gym, and I noticed that I wasn't able to do exercises using more than 2 kilogram weights in my left arm. I wanted to get stronger, and lifting a maximum of 2 kilograms wouldn't allow me to achieve that. This was the first time my disability stopped me from reaching my goal. This was the first time I couldn't do something I really wanted because of a handicap. It was the first time I actually felt disabled. I also noticed that the more I swam, the more my wrist would hurt. Sometimes I had to quit halfway through practice because of the pain. During this time, I felt devastated for not being able to reach a goal or improve myself because of a disability. So I cried a lot about it, and after a while, I started searching for solutions. And luckily, I found those solutions. I use this band to hang weights on, so that I'm able to use heavy weights during my weight sessions. And whenever we have to do push-ups, I get a ball from somewhere, and I put my elbow on it, like this. I also have this brace that I put on during swimming training when my wrist hurts. It takes away the pressure that's on my muscles and tendons during swimming. I just described to you the first time I actually felt disabled. But my disability has stopped me from doing something I really liked before. Back in 2008, me and my mother saw an article in the newspaper about a sport called modern pentathlon. This is a sport in which you do 5 sports: running, swimming, shooting, fencing, and horseback riding. We signed me up for it, and I really liked it. But 2010 was the year that the condition of my arms started to decline fast. My mother got scared that if I would fall from a horse, my wrist would break again, because it's really breakable. If that would happen, my wrist would be even more messed up than it already was. Also, shooting became an issue. As a 10-year-old girl, I wasn't strong enough to hold the heavy gun in one arm yet, so I had to use 2 arms. The only problem is that if I'm holding something in my left arm, my wrist starts hurting and shaking. Now that 2 out of 5 sports were becoming an issue, me and my mother decided that it was time for me to do another sport. Swimming was my best event, so we signed me up for the swimming team. And I like that even better than modern pentathlon. Isn't it kind of funny how my disability stopped me from doing something I really like, but at the same time brought me to something that would change my life? Ten years after I fell from the wall, I became Paralympic champion. Did I expect that? Absolutely not. It only became clear to me 2 months before the Games began that it was actually possible. When I started my Paralympic swimming career back in 2012, it was my biggest dream to participate in the Games. I was training for Tokyo 2020, but making it to the Rio Paralympics would be even a more amazing achievement. Within a very short time of starting swimming, I was achieving huge personal bests, and I continued to improve myself. But with these improvements came increased responsibility and a need for maturity that I didn't yet possess. When I was 13, I made the biggest mistake in my career. We were training for the European Championships, and qualifying would have been an amazing achievement. At the time, I was a backstroke swimmer, and the qualification time on the 100 meters backstroke was 1:14.66. I started that season with a personal best of 1:19.42. After 5 months of training, I swam 1:16.02. I had 2 months left to cut the remaining 1.5 seconds. So what did I do as a sweet, cute, little, inexperienced 13-year-old girl? I got lazy. I started eating unhealthy things, and now and then I would skip a few 100 meters of my training because I wanted to get home as quickly as possible. I thought that because the first 3 seconds were so easy to swim, the remaining 1.5 seconds would go just as easily. Well, it didn't. At my last chance of qualifying, I swam 1:13.35. I missed one. At my last chance of qualifying, I swam 1:18.12. This was the first time that I did not reach a goal, and it was completely my own fault. This was the first time that I did not reach a goal, and it was my own fault. When I was 13, I learned the hardest but most important lesson. Attaining your goals won't happen all by themselves. You are the greatest influence, you are the greatest factor in your journey to your goals, and you are the biggest influence in whether you make it or not. Not making it to the European Championships changed the way I thought. And 3 months after I had my last chance of qualifying, I swam 1:13.35. And I can't explain to you how stupid I felt for not swimming that 3 months earlier, because I knew I was ready for it all along. There are many other things in life besides sport in which you can set goals. I'm pretty sure there are some people in here who once started a diet, but quit before they had reached their ideal weight. Sure, you were happy that you could eat everything you wanted again, but wouldn't you have been prouder if the scale showed you the number that you wanted to see? Wouldn't that have made you even happier? Also, what we set as a goal is very important. You must set yourself high goals in order to achieve big things. The higher you set your goal, the harder you have to work to achieve it, and accordingly, the prouder you feel after achieving it. You are capable of doing so much more than you can imagine, and I'm the proof of that. 6 months before the games began, no one would have thought that I would be the gold medalist, and not even me. I dreamed it might happen, but I never thought it was actually possible. To me, winning the gold medal seemed like an impossible thing to do, but even so, I made it my goal. And it actually happened. But it took me a lot of effort. I trained relentlessly. I put in as much effort and time as possible, and I swam many, many kilometers. I learned the lessons from my lazy 13-year-old self, and I knew that I had to fight on and work even harder than ever before to attain this goal, to reach this goal. I am now 17, and I have found that people have expectations of me that wouldn't be put on many adults. As an athlete, you can't drink alcohol, you can't go to parties, and you are barely able to find time to see your friends and family. I think I've met up with my friends about 6 times in the past year. Meeting them is only possible when I'm not swimming, not going to school, and when I have the energy to get out of my bed. As an athlete, you have to consider the impact on your sports career with everything you do in life. Your sport has to be your #1 priority. And there are many talented athletes that fail at maintaining this mindset. I think most Dutch people remember the story of Yuri van Gelder during the Rio Olympics. He qualified for the rings final, but left the Olympic park to have a drink with some friends. As a result, he got sent home by the Dutch Olympic Committee before he could compete in the finals. Alcohol and sport are not a great combination, and as an athlete, you have to resist those temptations. And there are many temptations. It's so easy to skip practice in favor of going out with your friends. I think you can imagine how hard it is for a teenager to be so dedicated to a sport. But if I am able to improve myself, if I am able to resist those temptations, if I am able to find solutions to my problems, if I am able to handle the expectations that people have of me as a sweet little girl, then you adults don't have any excuse for not trying to reach your goals.